Welcome to Reddit Revenge Stories. Did you know over 90% of our viewers don't subscribe? If you enjoy this video, please subscribe and hit that like button. We're targeting 500 likes on this one. Let's dive into today's tale. If someone had told me 5 years ago that my life would unravel because of love, because of trust, I would have laughed. I was the guy who planned everything. I studied hard, built a good life, married the woman I thought was everything, and kept my head down. But life has a funny way of showing you who you really married. I'll tell you everything from the very beginning because maybe someone out there needs to hear it. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 39 years old, a systems engineer from Michigan. I was married for 10 years to Emily. She was the type of woman you'd never imagine would hurt you. Soft-spoken, intelligent, caring, or so I thought. We met at a mutual friend's wedding. She worked in PR, lived in Ann Arbor, and had this magnetic charm. Not in the showy, flirty way, more in that quiet, composed kind of way that made you lean in and listen. That's what pulled me in. That and her laugh. It wasn't overly loud, but it lingered. Our first year of marriage was bliss. People always say the honeymoon phase ends quickly, but for us, it stretched out longer than most. We traveled, built our careers, and supported each other. We had goals: buy a house, maybe have a kid, grow together. The house came, a two-story colonial, in a calm suburb just outside Detroit. But the kid never did. And looking back now, I think that was the beginning of the shift. Not the cause of what she did, no, that came later, but the crack that let the rot in. I'd come home late sometimes, especially during product launches or systems migrations at work. Emily understood, or pretended to. She always had something to keep her busy. Book clubs, work events, charity meetings. I never thought to question it. That was my mistake. I was so focused on building a future, I didn't notice what she was destroying behind my back. It started subtly. Her phone was always on silent. At first, I assumed she was just being polite. She never liked loud ringtones, but over time, it was more than just silent. It was always face down, locked, and sometimes completely out of sight. I chalked it up to privacy. I mean, everyone deserves space, right? Then came the distance. Conversations became shorter. Date nights were rare. I'd ask if something was wrong, and she'd say she was just tired. Work was stressful, hormones, everything had an excuse. I'd believe her because I loved her, because the alternative, that she was lying, was too hard to accept. One night I came home early from a canceled meeting. I thought I'd surprise her. Maybe we'd go out for a late dinner, or just hang out. When I walked into the house, I noticed the lights were off downstairs. No big deal, but upstairs our bedroom door was shut, and I could hear her voice. She was laughing. Not just laughing, giggling in a way I hadn't heard in a long time. That's when I heard a man's voice. My body froze. Not because I knew what was happening yet, but because that laugh, it wasn't for me. It hadn't been mine in months. I stood outside the door, listening. It was a video call. She was telling someone about a weekend plan and how excited she was to see him again. I couldn't make out every word, but the tone said everything. Flirty, familiar, intimate. I didn't burst in. I wish I could say I did something dramatic or bold, but I didn't. I walked downstairs, sat on the couch, and stared at the blank television screen for what felt like hours. When she finally came down, she acted like nothing had happened. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and asked how work was. That's when it hit me. This wasn't new. This had been going on, and I'd missed it. I started watching more closely after that. Every lie she told, every excuse she made, I logged it. She wasn't careful anymore, or maybe she thought I was too stupid to notice. Late work dinners on days her calendar was clear. Hotel charges on our shared credit card that she claimed were for conferences. A second phone line that she kept in her gym bag. I found it one morning when she left in a rush. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I'm not the type of guy who acts on emotion. I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof. So I started collecting it. I installed a discreet camera in the living room, one in the home office, and one facing the front door. I synced them to my personal cloud storage. She never noticed. Over the next few weeks, I watched her bring another man into our home. A tall guy, maybe early 40s, with a smug smile and no respect. He walked through my front door like he owned the place, sat on my couch, drank from my glasses. He even wore his shoes in the house, something she nagged me about for years. I got his license plate from the camera and ran it through a friend who works in private security. The guy's name was Paul Sutherland. Divorced, worked in commercial real estate, no criminal record, just a regular guy sleeping with my wife. I didn't confront her immediately. That would have been too easy for them. I needed to make sure that when this blew up, it wouldn't be a slap on the wrist. I wanted it to be something they remembered for the rest of their lives. So I played the game, pretended everything was fine, made her coffee in the morning, watched TV with her at night, even booked a couples massage one weekend just to throw her off. She didn't suspect a thing. Meanwhile, I gathered everything: video footage, text message logs from a software I installed on her second phone, call recordings. I even had screenshots of hotel reservations under false names. I created a timeline. I labeled every piece of evidence. I treated it like a project, my final project as a husband. Then came the planning. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to end this on my terms, with precision. It started with our finances. I slowly moved money out of our joint accounts, not in large sums, but small enough to avoid suspicion. I opened a new account under my name only, transferred my direct deposit, cut off her access to my retirement funds. I had every legal document backed up and prepared with my attorney. She didn't notice because she wasn't looking. Her attention was elsewhere, on Paul, the man who thought he could steal a life that didn't belong to him. One evening, I came home to find them sitting on the back deck, wine glasses in hand. She told me Paul was a client, said they were discussing a potential partnership. I nodded, smiled, and offered to grill some burgers. I acted like the fool she thought I was. Inside, I was boiling. That was the night I finalized my plan. I was going to expose them. Not with shouting, not with violence, but with truth. Cold, hard truth. I scheduled a dinner party for the following Saturday. Just a few friends, she thought, some neighbors, a couple coworkers. What she didn't know was that I had invited Paul's ex-wife, my lawyer, my brother, who always hated Emily but played nice for my sake, and a few of our mutual friends who still believed we were the perfect couple. I set the stage, catered food, soft music, dim lighting, everything was perfect. She dressed up, smiled, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "You're being so sweet lately." I smiled back, because she had no idea that this was the last night she'd ever lie to me. I remember everything about that night. The way Emily walked into the dining room like she owned it. She was wearing a navy blue dress, her favorite, hair curled just the way she liked it. That soft perfume she always saved for special occasions. She was glowing, but not because of me. No, I'd stopped being the source of that glow a long time ago. That glow belonged to Paul Sutherland now, the man she brought into my house, into my marriage, like I was just an empty placeholder. But I wasn't empty. I was calculating. The guests arrived one by one. My brother Mark was first, his eyes narrowing the moment he saw Emily smile like nothing was wrong. He'd always been protective of me. Knew something was off months ago, even when I didn't want to admit it. Then came my lawyer, posing as just another friend. Paul's ex-wife, Natalie, walked in soon after. I'll never forget the way she looked at Emily, smiling sweetly as if she didn't already know what kind of betrayal she was sitting across from. The others followed. Two co-workers of mine who'd been quietly rooting for our marriage, and a couple from down the street. Emily worked the room like a hostess at a gala. She poured wine, laughed too loudly, touched Paul's arm more than once, thinking I wasn't watching. But I saw everything, every fake smile, every glance they thought was private. I waited patiently like a man holding a match near gasoline, just biding time. Dinner was served. We ate, talked, the usual small talk. Then I stood up and tapped my glass, pretending to make a toast. "I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight," I said, looking around the table. "It's been a tough year, personally and professionally, but tonight is about appreciation, about truth." Emily smiled at me. I saw the confusion in her eyes. That moment, that flicker of uncertainty was the first crack. 10 years ago, I continued, I married the love of my life. I trusted her with everything, my heart, my home, my future. But love without honesty, well, it's like building a house on sand. A few people shifted in their seats. And so tonight I wanted to share something personal, something real. Then I pulled out the remote to the TV screen across the room and hit play. The footage rolled. Quiet at first. Emily in the living room with Paul laughing, touching his hand. Then the next clip. Her opening the front door to him while I was at work. Then the hotel footage. Her voice on speakerphone calling him babe. Each clip short, only a few seconds, but enough. Gasps filled the room. Natalie, Paul's ex, covered her mouth and leaned back in her chair. Mark just stared at Emily like he wanted to say, I told you so. The room wasn't just quiet. It was stunned. Emily shot up from her seat. Daniel, what is this? I didn't even flinch. This, I said, is the truth you've been hiding. But not anymore. Paul stood up, trying to talk, but I cut him off. Don't, not a word. You've said enough in my house already. Emily started crying. The fake kind at first, the kind meant to distract, to make herself the victim. But no one bought it. Not this time. Not with the evidence playing in high definition behind her. You ambushed me, she said, voice trembling. No, I said calmly. You ambushed our marriage. I just held up the mirror. The rest of the night was a blur, but not in the usual way. People left quietly except for Natalie. She stayed behind for a minute, thanked me for the closure, and walked out with her head held high. Emily begged me to talk, said we could go upstairs and work it out, that it was a mistake, that she wasn't thinking straight. She actually had the nerve to ask if we could go to counseling. I looked her dead in the eyes. You killed this marriage long before tonight. I just signed the death certificate. Then I walked upstairs, packed a small bag, and left. Not because I didn't have the right to stay. The house was legally half mine. But I needed distance. I needed silence to think. And I knew what was coming next. Her attempts to spin the story, to gain sympathy, to save face. But I was ahead of her at every step. The next few weeks were like unraveling a knot that had been pulled tight for years. She called, texted, emailed. She even showed up at my office once, crying in the parking lot. I didn't engage. My lawyer sent her a formal notice. I filed for divorce the very next morning. But here's where the revenge really began. Not the petty kind, not yelling or slashing tires. My revenge was quiet, smart, permanent. I had already gathered everything I needed, all financial records, phone logs, recordings. I handed everything over to my lawyer. We filed for divorce under grounds of infidelity with supporting documentation. She would receive no spousal support. I kept the house. The joint savings? Frozen. She tried to fight it, claimed it was harassment. But with the proof I had, the judge didn't even blink. I also reached out to her employer anonymously. I didn't fabricate anything. I simply forwarded the footage of her during working hours, using business trips for her rendezvous. They launched an internal investigation. A month later, she was quietly let go. No fanfare, just a polite termination letter citing conduct unbecoming. I never told anyone I was behind it, didn't need to. Some things are better left unspoken. Paul? His reputation took a hit too. Once the story got out, courtesy of Natalie sharing her experience with a few well-placed colleagues, his clients backed off. Real estate deals fell through. His online reviews mysteriously dropped, all pointing to untrustworthiness and unethical behavior. Funny how truth spreads when it's well documented. Emily eventually moved out of town. I heard through a friend she was staying with a cousin in Illinois, trying to start over. She tried messaging me again a few times. Apologies, excuses. Even one message claiming she still loved me. I didn't respond to any of them. Not because I didn't have things to say, but because silence is the loudest reply you can give to someone who betrayed you. It took time, of course. Healing isn't a straight path. There were nights when the house felt too quiet. Mornings where I still reached for a second coffee mug out of habit. But day by day, I got stronger. Not bitter, just clear. I rebuilt, focused on work, traveled, picked up running again. I fixed the guest room into a study, painted over the bedroom walls, erased every trace of her, not out of hate, but because I needed the space to breathe. I know some people will say I went too far, that I should have forgiven her, that people make mistakes. But I don't believe in rewriting stories to make them easier to swallow. She made choices, repeated ones, and I made mine. My revenge wasn't fire and fury, it was truth. And truth, when delivered right, doesn't need to raise its voice. It just needs to be seen. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood in what used to be our backyard, now mine, and stared at the space where Emily once planted her rose bushes. She'd always loved those flowers, said they were delicate but dangerous. Ironic, really. They were the first things I dug up. There was something strangely peaceful about starting over, not in a loud, triumphant way, but quietly, like exhaling after holding your breath too long. I never told anyone everything. People knew parts, the affair, the footage, the fallout, but the finer details, the planning, the silence, the way I slowly took apart the web she built, I kept those to myself. They were mine, my version of closure. Paul, I heard, had moved to another city, tried to rebuild his career, under a new brokerage. A friend of mine sent me a photo once. Him sitting alone at a bar, hunched over a drink, looking nothing like the polished man who once stood in my living room. I didn't feel pity, just detachment. Like watching a chapter, end in a book I no longer needed to reread. As for Emily, the last message she sent came late one evening, months after we signed the final papers. It simply said, "I miss you. I was wrong." I stared at that message for a long time, not because it hurt, but because I realized it didn't. That was the final revenge, really, not the evidence, not the exposure, not even the silence. It was this, knowing that she would have to live with the memory of what she'd destroyed, and that I had walked away from the ashes better, not bitter. I didn't reply. Instead, I deleted her message and turned off my phone. I had a plane to catch the next morning, New York. A job opportunity had come up that I wouldn't have taken before. Back when I was trying to make life comfortable for both of us. Now, I was doing things for me. The first night in New York, I sat on a rooftop with a colleague, looking out over the skyline. "You ever miss her?" he asked. I thought about it for a second. The way she used to laugh when we danced in the kitchen. The way she curled up next to me on stormy nights. The way she used to look at me before all of it changed. "No," I said finally. "I miss who I thought she was. But that person never existed." That's the thing people don't understand about betrayal. It's not just the lies, it's the slow erosion of reality. You start to question what was ever real, what was just performance. But when you come out the other side, when you stop grieving the illusion, you find something better. Yourself. I spent the next few months building a new life. I traveled, read books I'd put off for years, reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with. I even learned to cook properly, not because anyone else needed me to, but because I wanted to. One night, I bumped into Natalie, Paul's ex-wife, at a conference. She was giving a talk on resilience in business, of all things. We had dinner afterward, talked about the madness we both survived. She told me she started her own firm. I told her I'd stopped measuring my life by what I lost and started focusing on what I'd gained. We never dated, despite people assuming we would. It wasn't that kind of connection, but in her, I found someone who understood the storm without needing to relive it. Looking back now, I don't regret how things ended. I regret what I tolerated for so long. The gaslighting, the excuses, the way I allowed love to become a leash. But I'm not angry anymore. Revenge, real revenge, isn't about destruction. It's about becoming untouchable to the people who once thought they could ruin you. It's walking into a room with your head high while they avoid your eyes. It's knowing they'll never get that version of you again. The one who trusted blindly, loved deeply, and gave endlessly. That version of me is gone. And in his place stands someone better. Someone who doesn't need closure from others to move forward. someone who turned betrayal into a blueprint for strength. This isn't a story about a broken man. It's a story about a man who got up, cleaned the dust off his soul, and built something unshakable. Me. And I wouldn't change a single page.